crypto. Can you tell me what you do?
So my name is Rich. I'm co-founder with Mitch. We work in uh, real world assets and tokenization and with sports, cultural IP, etc. How are you, Mitch Armando? Nice to meet you. Great to meet you. Yeah, we're so I founded ECI when I was in college. I was a hedge fund. We scaled. We got into the tokenizing and real estate space. From there, we're like, look, we can do it for real estate. We can do it for international players. So we started to think, let's do soccer, let's do international cultural IP, stuff like that. That's kind of where we are right now.
Mark, your other interviewer. How you guys doing? You guys loving your in Florida?
Love in Florida.
Love in Florida.
Hard rock. We're having a good time.
Great. My first question for you. What do you envision for the future of your industry next 10 years? And what role do you see your company playing in that transformation?
Yeah, why don't you go? I mean, look, I think we've seen the bull runs in crypto up and down, right? From 2017, it was ICOs, then you got NFTs, stuff like that. What we're really seeing now is a layer of legitimacy come into the space, right? You see institutional money starting to play, you see regulators coming in. The only way they're going to do that if there's assets that they want to scale into and they can underwrite. So for us, we're like, look, we can take real estate, which private real estate previously has been pretty locked up. A lot of people can play in that arena and make it so people can regulate it, tokenize it, and trade it internationally. All of a sudden, you democratize the financial system, right? Uh, so we went from real estate. We're like, well, in real estate, we're creating the story. Why don't we go and start doing some of these international sports teams, right? There, you have fans, there, a nice fan base. And that's where it kind of caught fire. So we've been looking at this. That's kind of the future of finance. And what we're doing is we're going to look, it's not there yet. And people are starting to do simple securities, money market funds. You see what like Vlad did at Robinhood with OpenAI and SpaceX. Um, we see it coming, but for us, we don't want to be where the ball's going. We want to be pushing the ball where it is. So we're basically buying a bunch of assets that then we can slowly bring into that market as the regulation comes in. The U.S. starts to understand what a security is and security. We want to be on the front edge of that. That's where I'm trying to position ourselves. The cultural IP, especially in sports. Look, we love our sports teams. And all the things, think about our jerseys. We want belonging. We want to be seen. We want to be a part of it. Ownership is an actual evolution of that. How would you like to be the owner of your team? And that might be at a tune of $100 or, tens of thousands of dollars. But the Green Bay Packers did a really great job of this back in 1937 when they offer up as a nonprofit organization, people have shares within Green Bay Packers, this community owned. However, it's not so much their model, which gives people a lot of sense of pride and connection, isn't really connected to an actual equity. It's something they could put on the wall and have a symbolic sense of ownership. We're really interested in providing a true ownership of where you're really invested in that team from an economic perspective, as well as at the culturalist perspective and everything that goes along with that, and the pride of that ownership. Right? I mean, think about that. Like how passionate we are about our sports organization and being able to have that sense of participation. And that's what this provides.
Next question. What's one emerging trend that you currently think that most leaders are currently under at
I mean, look, I think it's our market in a lot of ways, right? This whole concept of real world assets coming on chain, people are slowly starting to wrap their head around it. Right? Starting to see, oh, I'll go buy a money markets fund or whatever and get 5%. Or, Vlad did a really good job at Robinhood where he went and took OpenAI and SpaceX and all came out that way. But at the end of the day, where this becomes a big piece is when you start to view it as secondary liquidity, right? Where it's like, we do real estate, small deals, 100 million up to, a couple billion bucks. Some LP gives me money, he wants out. Right now, it's pretty hard for him to get out. What we could do here is start to fractionalize that ownership and get that liquidity behind that. And I think that's something that people are slowly starting to wrap their heads around, but when it hits, it's going to be huge. You're going to start to see real estate, for example, go from, oh, you're scaling money into, oh, this is a yield play. Where all of a sudden it's, buying a Facebook campus or Google campus, depending on the cash flow. And that's something I think the people who are looking down the pipe see it, but the people who own the biggest assets in the space are reluctant to understand that right now. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think there is this ultimate thing of fan engagement, especially in sports, where I've worked with multiple major league sports teams. They have one conversation: how do we keep people connected? And whether it's the ownership jersey that they get, to be able to have an opportunity to come on the field with them. So from a sports industry, as they start to open up their eyes and recognize the depth and breadth of ability to engage fans more deeply, it's really that hand in glove fit, and it's something that's really unique and it hasn't really happened before.
Y'all speaking to my heart. When I hear real world assets and I hear tokenization, fractionalization, it just excites me because what this really means is being able to have ownership in something. And then you're bringing the fan experience in as well. And what does that look like? There are so many items and so many things that you can tokenize that's valuable to a fan and to a team. Go ahead.
No, and that's our challenge, which is oftentimes we talk about bringing these assets onto blockchain,
Right?
and people's heads right now kind of go to crypto. And having that conversation of you have to understand almost every conversation I have is this is not crypto.
Right.
This is actually owning something. So there is a floor. There's a bottom floor. It can't just disappear. That tokenization is providing you with a level of actual equity or however it's structured, but something that's tangible, that's tradable.
It's the next step from the NFTs, right? NFTs are buying and selling JPEGs. Well, take the rails of the NFTs and put them into, private investment vehicles. All of a sudden you have like a marketplace that you can create. And look, I think it's going to be an arms race. I think you have a lot of these layer ones that are kind of doing the same thing, right? They're providing smart contracts, liquidity, X, Y, and Z. The ones that have assets on them that institutions want to play in that they can't get elsewhere will win, right? It's like, okay, I can go buy a money markets fund on 15 different options, right? But I can't go buy a Mexican soccer team, right? So I have to go to that platform to buy that. And you're gonna start to see that, evolve over the next 18 months pretty quickly.
Absolutely. My personal experience has been in real world assets, the training wheels and syndication, and looking at new builds and working with the developers, working with the real estate to bring that together, to introduce it to a new community and say, hey, here's where you can have ownership. Okay, you 5, you 10, you 20, you 100. Let's all get together and let's go buy a team, right? And now you put it on blockchain and you're saying, wait a minute, I own this. And then I can have an exit or I can hold on to it and I can pass it on to my generations to come. Like, this is an incredible conversation.
Well, and that education piece, Sophie, we were at a conference last week in San Francisco, and one of the just the biggest challenge is I have this. So I have a background in enterprise software where I it was early days in ad tech when trying to explain to people how you could buy ads online through an exchange, and people were like, biggest objection was, well, you can't do that. We can, they just didn't understand it. We're in a similar place in the space where it's the education, and we say that kind of as a cliche, but it truly is. We have to stop talking about all these fancy words. We have to stop and getting away with, uh, you know, all of the web 1, 2, 3 aspects. I mean, they all are real, but to bring people into it, it has to be approachable, simple, and tie it to what things that people understand. And we get very enamored with how excited we are about this technology, and we honestly we nerd out a little too much. And it's fun to do it at a conference like this because everyone understands the language. But when we go out to the marketplace, it's still something that can be quite frightening. And if people don't know, and oftentimes the biggest competition is do nothing. Like, I don't understand it. My safest bet is to do nothing. So how do we create that feeling to want to do something in safety? And it will be how we talk about it as a community. We believe passionately about it. Well, we have to make it simple. By the way, simple is the hardest thing to do. And simple doesn't mean we're talking down to people, but connecting dots that are critical for this industry to move forward.
I mean, look, when we first spun this up in 2020, we spun up a Bermuda entity to wrap the asset in SPV, to label it commodity, to list it internationally, right? No one wants to touch the US. I think over the last 12 months, we've started to see a little bit more opening of that market where people want to come into the US. But again, no one wants to be the first mover in the US because that's the first mover to court, right? You're going to get sued. Everyone's going to be pissed. But you have rails that exist in the US. You don't have rails that exist internationally. So when you go to an international player, all of a sudden you're recreating the wheel. And go, oh, we get it. What chain you want? Where you going? It's like they exist in that ecosystem, right? Same with stablecoin, same with DeFi. And we definitely see that. The nice thing is we sit on a bunch of US assets that we can bring international. And that's something they're not used to. So that is a big leverage point, which we see.
That's so important. And so it was critical to travel to Washington, DC and sit in the room at the Security and Exchange Commission roundtables. I have perfect attendance in attending that. Just walked in, just said, okay, let me be a fly on the wall and understand what's coming because I understand business, but how can I empower other businesses not to be afraid of being a first mover and actually coming in and understanding what they call areas of let's co-create in this sandbox. Let's understand some other legalese that we need to be aware of, but do it transparently with the governing bodies as we look at regulation coming from the United States. That's important. That's why you go to these meetings. Last week I was at the Government Blockchain Association annual conference, being able to advise and talk to businesses about, hey, let's do this. Let's do this. Let me bring this person. Let me talk to this person. Let's all come to the table and let's build this out so that it's safe, it's transparent, and it brings that education piece that you were just talking about. Let's speak in plain language. We get the tech behind it, but this is what it really means generationally to be able to pass something down to futures to be. So
I had experience. Look, I went through the 2000 dot-com bust, right? And we looked at, everything from the pets.com to web vans of the world that everyone saw that built up and it collapsed down. And it was just a lot of not understanding. We're in a similar place. This will evolve. This isn't like something that may be happening, but those that are in it early, have to kind of go through the bumps of that journey. And I say education, it sounds so cliche, right? So simple, but it's how do we connect with people to see that? And there's lots of examples that came before us previously that look a lot like where we're at crypto. And the internet is very similar to that respect. But where we are now is just like abundance of opportunity. But we'll take a lot of elbow grease, the work that you all are doing and going to those meetings and being able to help people recognize that this isn't just some brand new thing. I mean, yes, it is an approach, but this is kind of the cycles of how we've gone through innovation in our world.
Oh, great answer. Thank you. I appreciate that. What question can you ask next for us?
Strike a balance, both vision and day-to-day execution.
I think, look, it's staying on top of, small things lead to big conclusions, right? Like for us, we see the vision, we see where we want to go, we see this globalized market, but you actually have to get the institutions playing on your field before you just start building that, right? So, for example, we go to family offices, we're not going, hey, we're going to tokenize your position. We're going, hey, here's a really good investment vehicle. We'll get you where previously your liquidity would have been like 8 to 10 years. We'll give you some sort of liquidity in 24 to 48 months, right? And for them, that's huge because no one can offer that. And for us, all of a sudden, we can start going, all right, how are we going to do this? Which exchanges? Who are we talking to? Where are we putting it? Because this market's not going to be built up by retail investors building it, right? It's going to be institutions that have bought assets that they then can bring to retail investors to get their liquidity on the back end. And you're starting to see it. I mean, look, Robinhood did it right. He went out, bought the shares himself, and then got his own liquidity by putting it on his platform. And I think if you can take that mindset to this, that then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're not recreating the wheel. We're really just, building different pieces of it to fit where other parts don't work. Um, but keep it small. I mean, look, on our real estate deals span between 100 million to 6.5 billion, right? I'm not going to go out and go tokenize some $1 billion deal, right? What I can do is, hey, there's a $20 million LP in something that, divorce, whatever happens in life, you need some liquidity. We can bring that $20 million piece to market, start getting some of that in there. But it's just staying on top of what everyone needs, staying on top of like, okay, this is what, the market can eat up. We don't want to go out there and launch huge product, get ahead of our skis, look forward for the whole thing. So that's what we're focused on.
Yeah, I mean, proof of concept,
Yeah.
right? Find the small bites. We listen, all he and I do is talk about how big this can be. And then we have that fun time, and then we got to bring ourselves back down to the world of like, if we don't do this one thing, like if we have one small international soccer team that we can show this, then that will get the attention in here. And I think as if you're a creator or if you're someone that's really looking to build something, you really feel that passion a lot of time, and you just want to swing for those fences. And the discipline is what's that one, and by the way, I say small, it's still a 15-30 million dollar thing. It's not like pull cash out of your pocket, right? You still have to find the like-minded people to be able to find that. Can you prove it? Right. And I come from a lot of tech. There's a line that people use there, which is as developers of software, which is, can you build a minimally viable product? Right. So excuse me, software. Salesforce.com started with a very simple, minimally viable product. The team that built that, can we do this one thing? And then you continue to add on that as you go. And it takes patience, it takes discipline, and so you have to measure or mitigate your excitement at times, but stay true to, can you do these things that are bite chunk so that you can then go to the next one. And so when you're building something bold, you need to have a bold idea, but you also have the disciplined execution to how you reach them.
That's cool. Like, even thinking about at the meeting last week, we were discussing liquidity, and I hear you talk about liquidity, and I'm learning this stuff, so I might misspeak, and y'all correct me on this. But they were talking about T2, so T transaction, 2 days plus wait, going from a T, what blockchain allows is instant, so transitioning to a T1, then transitioning to a T0. So that liquidity and having access. So it's 10 o'clock on a Friday night, and all of a sudden I'm ready to move and let me say this right, redeem and cash out or borrow against or loan and all these things that happens in blockchain. And that's still being a point of conversation to how many of those transactions can actually happen on the blockchain, but also what's the resolution in it happening. So I'm glad that we're having this conversation now. And it sounds like I love the start small and then build upon, but it's not really small, but
You're
it
thinking,
can be.
you're starting small,
Exactly.
and just the logic of in the traditional finance, you have to wait till 9 o'clock in New York time, et cetera, to do all of that. The friction that goes in between. And like I've got a 20-year-old son, and we're around young people that just look, why didn't know how to open a bank account. We're like, why do I have to go to a place to do this? Why do I have to? This friction. They just see friction and friction. If this should not be, why shouldn't I be able to buy a house when I see it and click a button, do a deal, and just acquire that house? Why do I have to have 15 people go through all of this in escrow, wait for the banks to approve? Why? We literally have the capabilities for that to happen instantly. And it will, because ultimately this generation that's coming and people are used to that. And that's not to say, I know a lot of people in the title business. I don't wish them ill, but that probably will ultimately go away. But not tomorrow, right? So how do you build that logical process from there to get to them?
Exceptional. Exceptional response. Thank you so much for that. Do you have a question for us?
What responsibility do you
forward thinking companies had in fostering inclusive and equitable teams?
I mean, look, what we're doing, really boil it down, like we're democratizing finance, right? Like our minimum investment in the real estate is, 50 million bucks. There are very few people that can write that check. Family offices, sovereign wealth, go on the list. If I can take that, and make it so an individual sitting in like, you know, China can put $5 towards the Facebook facility, I think that's our end goal here. It's not going to happen day one. Obviously, we need to get people to start to adapt, buy out this position, and then you can get smaller. But that really is the goal. And I think the whole concept of, crypto, Web3, DeFi, call it what you want, is it gets rid of these, jurisdiction trading zones, call it what you want, right? It's a global financial system all of a sudden. The same way I can text someone in like Amsterdam, Dublin, wherever it is, they should be able to financially interact with the same things which I am. And that's really what set us to start doing. We're doing it in Mexico pretty heavily.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at international markets where you would say that wouldn't be the place to enter. But like, I think, inclusion, it's just that. I mean, make it available to everyone, right? And this creates a platform to do that. So if we're looking at both equity and inclusion, financially, that is probably one of the biggest exclusionary areas that's ever existed, right? And so now you have an opportunity in a responsible way to, to invite folks. Go big globally. We're not just talking about the United States. We think this is reducing those frictions internationally, and it could make an impact. Somebody in China investing $5. That's pretty inclusive, which is they're not, by the way, in one of his father's buildings that is a premium building that they would have no access to, right? So this technology opens that world up, whether it be a $5 investment, $100,000 investment, but we're really looking at the essence of financial inclusivity and equity in that space for everyone to participate at the levels that they are ready to, with the same, protections and risks. Look, doesn't mean that you don't have exemption from risks, but that's how we tend to look at it as one of the things, cornerstones of what inclusion and equity
Like
looks
the
like.
biggest thing is, look, you can't, scream and shout to get into the casino, but then cry when you lose your money on the casino floor, right? So you have an essence of that. But at the same time, you also have an essence of, we're getting rid of a lot of the gatekeepers that previously have held these investments inaccessible to everyone. You can't corrupt an algorithm. So why do I need someone to run my numbers on an algorithm? I'm not going to pay you a fee to go run that. I can just do it myself. So I think you're starting to see a lot of that stuff more days, quite a bit.
I love the response to the answer regarding democratizing. And for the first time, the floodgates to a degree is opening to folks that's just like, what I can buy real estate, what I can, one of the largest assets in the world, by the way, and then what I can own part of a sports team, having access is just incredible. And teaching people at this stage, this is why you want to have access to something like this, because in your lifetime, in the generations to come, you're setting them up for success. You're leaving generational wealth to your family members. So it just makes sense to look at what you have, what people need, how do you allow them to be a part of that? Teach them how they're able to leverage it, but also think broader, right? I really want those. I really want to go to the movies. I get it, go to the movies, but what could I do if I invest that movie money in something else? If I just delay my gratification just a little bit, what can I do? Geniuses, I hope y'all listening to this. Incredible information that's being shared, really helping you all to understand the power of your money, what you're able to do. Don't just think short term, think long term. And if it requires you to pick up a side hustle or do something in order to be able to invest into your future, into your family's future, think one generation, two generations, three generations, and more. So I hope that you all are listening to this. This is just incredible. You have a question for us next? Okay, she's ready. All right, thank y'all. Y'all like banging it out real good. Geniuses, make sure y'all repost this. Make sure y'all tweet something out. Let the folks know where you are. Get more people in this space to hear this interview. Come on, geniuses. I'm counting on y'all.
And I've heard you talk about passion a few times in the interview, and I think passion really should lie in everything you do. But what exactly inspires you to do?
And look, we're kind of the only ones thinking like this right now, right? Everyone else is going at it from a check size standpoint, or we're gonna go spin up a platform exchange, whatever. We're going, look, if we can find the product, we can find the people that want that product, and that's what keeps us going, right? And the product pipeline is pretty endless here because, I mean, looking internationally, there's 300, 350 million people in the U.S., right? But there's 7 billion people internationally. So all of a sudden, you're starting to think on a way bigger scale. And my biggest thing is seeing different cultures that financially interact, right? Like, numbers will always be the same, but the way people interact with that will always be different. And for us, kind of be on the front edge of that's pretty exciting.
He and I met on an airplane and I knew nothing about this. We had a conversation after 2 hours. I went back and spent 2 days learning about it, called him up, said we need to meet. The passion is like seeing something that is possible. What started to really connect was for me personally, was without a lot of knowledge, was just getting all the highlights of all the barriers of entry for many people that could really benefit from entering. And I think what I learned early that I recognize you see a lot of these institutions early on that crypto's this or this, that, and the other. And again, I'm not actually talking about crypto. I'm just kind of talking about the digital finance piece of it. They make money by keeping those things closed. And so you see a lot, you have to kind of read between the lines of, is this person saying, and is their point of view in their own self-interest, or is it in the true essence of what this technology and blockchain and all of this represents? And I'm not saying they're bad people. Everyone has their opinion. You get to fight for what's important to you. And most people vote with their own self-interest. But when you gain a community of a global interest or a global community that begin voting in their individual interests, you can build something pretty unique. And so that for me is, I mean, I could go get a job at a bank. I've worked in tech. I know what it looks like. But being able to be a creator in that space, but also seeing it's not just look, if we do this well, this gentleman and I will do very well. But at the same time, if we do it really well, so will a lot of other people. And with a lot less friction and with a lot less bureaucracy in it, and well outside the United States, right, from a global perspective. Because we live in this particular community of the United States, which is the wealthiest on the planet, and we lose sight. We travel globally. The opportunities to be able to bring people in and offer them that opportunity fairly, right, is motivating.
Makes me excited. How can somebody not say, hey, I'm gonna look y'all up, I'm gonna figure out how I can get in, how I can contribute, how I can be a part of what you're building, because this is incredible. What do you have for us, Guy?
I don't have any other questions.
Okay,
That's the last question right now.
all right.
But I don't
Okay. Well, no, you're fine. This all makes sense. Now is the time for education. That's the biggest, when I look at the industry as a whole, it's the education piece and what they're motivated by the people. So what's in it for them? How exactly do they understand um, delayed gratification? Again, it's just that's the biggest thing is investing and understanding how your money makes money for you. Like your money, I call it my friend, right? My friend take a couple dollars. I'm able to take that couple dollars and I'm able to have it make more friends for me. You all is very simple. $1 can be compound to another dollar that can be compound to a lot of dollars. You all just really have to believe that you're in a position where you want to change where you are and you want to do something that really you can be proud of. I think about legacy as much as possible. And what's your legacy that you're going to leave? Hopefully, it's one that you gave, that you inspired, that you motivated, that you took care of the things that matter most to you along the way.
I mean, we're in this place now of I mean, I would just encourage your audience, curiosity, curiosity, curiosity. Make AI your friend. Okay, please. It's available. There is no restriction in information. Just ask it the question. Find out, and just be curious and be willing to stretch your questions into something that can support that. And then blend that with curiosity of people that actually know. And that's not me making a statement if you're an only trust AI, but leverage it. The information available to folks right now. If you're not leveraging it, it's a missed opportunity. Uh, I would have done much better in college had I had AI. And I still regret that a little bit. But my son's doing very well, and I'm assuming, yeah, but I get it. Uh, so absolutely in that respect.
Excellent. Mitch, I thank you so much for
Appreciate it.
having this interview with the Genius Room. We're on X, we're on most of the social media platforms, by the way, and this is live streaming. So, what information would you like to leave with the Genius Room and all of the Genius Room followers that are watching right now and that will watch the replay?
I mean, look, I think we're still at the early stage of this market. I've been saying it for a while. I mean, the winners and losers aren't there yet, right? You're starting to see some, but we're still at the Ask Jeep space, this whole .com, right? So get your exposure, educate yourself. If you're bored, learn to code, right? If you're sitting there doing nothing, get into the mix. There's never a reason not to be trying to get yourself at the front end of what's coming down the pipe. Um, and again, I think using AI is the biggest advantage here, right? You have an unlimited resource, ask questions, take what we're saying, double click on it. We're scaling, we're hiring, look us up, let us know, and continue the conversation.
Now, where can they find you, Mitch?
So we're on X, our website, Steelwave LLC, our other website's ecobalt.io. I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, everything. So just look us up.
Just tweet
We're
Mitch.
available.
He's easy to find. He's
Okay.
living on it. I have to
Yeah.
get him off of it. He's off.
And, it's been great. Thank you again for everything.
We really appreciate it. And we really appreciate what you all are doing.
This is great.
This is doing the work that's needed. This is the hard work at the beginning, helping people get inspired to bring them in, kind of demystify some of it. And again, this is a phenomenal space to be in. But to Mitch's point, it's the early days when you need the deepest belief, and it's the most difficult to come through. It's if you're looking for get rich quick, this is probably not it, right? But fundamentals, effort, asking the questions, educating yourself, getting other people's opinions, right? Uh, oh, by the way, that's kind of always the way it's been. It sounds a little boring, but guess what? It's what gets you there.
So geniuses, I thank you for your time. Make sure you follow, make sure you repost and share this out. I'm about to end this live stream and y'all are so lucky. Y'all had back to back to back interviews with incredible leaders, CEOs, founders that believe in the future of technology. Hey, wait a minute. We're at the Blockchain Futurist Conference. Go figure. All right, everybody. I am out. Love y'all, and I will talk to y'all soon. Mwah!